Like many circuits across our connection, Lagan Valley and South Down has greatly benefited from the services of retired ministers, both in preaching and pastoral responsibilities. At present, there are 8 retired ministers living on the circuit, and all have or are playing a part in the role of our churches. The Reverend Tom Deacon and the Reverend Billy Davison, a former president of our church, have specific responsibilities, and we hear about them and something about their ministry. Firstly, let me introduce Tom. Tom, in what parts of the circuit are you involved, and how did that come about?
Well, currently I'm working on the Priest Hill Broom Hedge end of the circuit. Came about, I was finishing off my term as Assistant Secretary of Conference in 2016, and I happened to let slip that I was going to be retiring in 2017, and you know what followed on from there. I started roughly September 2017, looking after both Dromore and Priest Hill for just a little over a year or so. But then after a period, I was shifted in terms of the churches I was part and parcel of, and I'm now involved with Priest Hill and Broom Hedge.
Thank you. And now, Billy, the same question to you.
Yes, Tom. I'm helping in Macrogall and in Trinity Church. 2/3 of my time spent in Macrogall, helping with the preaching and pastoral, and 1/3 in Trinity. I preach there one Sunday in the month, and also a little bit of pastoral work alongside that.
I'll come back to that shortly, but I'd like to hear something about the places you've been stationed over the years, starting with you, Tom.
It probably would be easy to say where I haven't been rather than where I have. I actually served on 9 circuits in my 43 years before I left the ministry in 2017. I have to write them down actually, otherwise I forget. Omagh Fintan Circuit a year, Enniskillen 5, Londonderry Mission 5. There I was looking after Limavady and was chaplain to McGilligan. Auchmacloy 4, Shanklety Ministry 3. I was chaplain in Crumlin Road prison there. Castlederg 7, Bangor Ballyholme 5, Whitehead 7, Banbridge 6, and I retired then in 2017 just to take up my role on the Lisburn circuit, which I am enjoying, very much so.
And Billy, tell us about your earlier ministry.
Well, my earlier ministry started off in Bray and Blackrock. I was there for 3 years, from 87 to 90. And from there then I moved up to the Londonderry City Mission, stationed in Limavady with also some pastoral work for McGilligan Prison at that time. And from there the call came then to Edenderry Methodist, where I worked for 8 years. That included at the time Edenderry, Derry Anvil and Ballinary, which is now closed. And from there then I went to Finicky and was stationed there for 7 years. And at the end of that term, the stationing committee asked me then to take up the appointment in Newton Abbey Methodist Mission. So I was there for 11 years in the mission. So that was my longest appointment.
Okay, so back to the present. Tom, you're involved in Priest Hill and in Broom Hedge. Mm-hmm. Tell us what your focus is there.
Well, it's getting back to basics, basically. The wonderful thing about Billy and my position is we're no longer responsible for committees and all of that sort of thing. So now it's simply preaching and pastoral work, which ought to be at the very centre of ministry. But sadly, because of other duties and other responsibilities, sometimes they get squeezed out a little bit. So I'm contracted to do 3 Sundays per month and 2 days a week pastoral visiting. And it's just lovely to be able to have time both to prepare properly for worship, which sometimes in the full-time ministry you don't have time, but perhaps most important, it's lovely to be able to sit down with people and just chat in their homes. COVID has been a terrible time, but we're getting back to normal, I hope. So yeah, preaching and pastoral work is my emphasis, and I'm sure the same for Billy.
And Billy, what is your focus, your main focus?
Yes, as Tom rightly says, preaching, I do 3 Sundays in the month preaching, and then pastoral work in Macrogall and in Trinity as well. I think that, you know, the pastoral work of the church is very, very important. And there are many people I've discovered over the last year and a half who have served our church with great faithfulness. And maybe some of them now are housebound, confined to their home or in nursing homes, that kind of thing. And you know, it's very easy for those people to feel that they've been forgotten about. And I think that, you know, it has come home to me how important it is, that pastoral support. You know, you're there, you go into them, and when they look at you, I think that you bring, hopefully, hope to them by sharing, listening, and the reading and the prayer, which is very important. And I find, you know, that the response you get from people is very positive. So that side of it is vital, I think, for the church today, but very easily to be neglected.
And one quick final question to each of you. Tom, what do you see as the benefit of the enlarged circuit?
A number of my appointments would have been as the lone minister on a circuit. You were it, basically. Sometimes you were very isolated. I talked about Castlederg, for instance, right at the very west, the extreme edge of the province. One of the things that you find in that sort of circumstance is that it can be very lonely, and you don't have colleagues to bounce ideas off or even vent your frustrations with as well. So being part of a team, I think, is very significant in that you can share responsibility, you can share your troubles and also your joys as well. And there are loads of joys within the ministry. Another factor is that with a larger group of staff, you can complement each other in terms of your skill sets. I mightn't be great at youth work, that might be Billy's forte or vice versa, but whatever our skill is, we bring it to the table, as it were, and we pool our resources. Of course, the big drawback in larger circuits is that sometimes it's very hard to bring people together. I found over the years, the more recent years, that we tend to be very congregationalist in our attitudes. And even in smaller geographical circuits, I found it very hard sometimes to bring people together for joint worship or united services or to support a project or whatever. And the larger the circuit, of course, the harder that becomes. And of course, COVID again has really made life very, very difficult in terms of bringing people together. So I think this is one of the challenges that we face.
And your thoughts, Billy, on this?
I think for me, Tom, over a period of time, I think you become, as a minister, very conscious that there are roles in the church that are not always easy to fill. Appointments, lay appointments for treasurers, society stewards, circuit stewards. These roles demand time, and I think it has got more difficult, over the last number of years for a minister to fill some of those appointments. And the advantage, I think, of having the larger circuit is that hopefully that more churches and a circuit can work together on that. Hopefully. I know that the geographical aspect that Tom has raised can be sometimes difficult. But with these appointments for youth organisations, for example, let's look at Boys Brigade and Girls Brigade, which have contributed a lot to our church over the years. And it's not always easy to get captains, to get officers, and people like that involved because of the commitment. So maybe going forward, we need to look at, maybe one BB could serve a number of churches on a circuit. Similarly with Girls Brigade or with a treasurer. So I think that that's the advantage, and we've got to try and work on that because it will, I think, every minister needs good stewards.
Well, thank you, Tom and Billy, for being so open, for sharing your experiences and your thoughts. And I just want to say on behalf of the circuit, we so appreciate all that you do for the Lagan Valley and South Down circuit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate it.